If you've ever been to a yoga class, then you'll know that in general there are two parts to it. The first part is the physical practice, where you do your downward dogs, your warrior poses and all of that good stuff. And then the second part is where you meditate. So you lie down, the instructor puts a nice wee blanket over the top of you, they maybe light a few incense sticks, and then they take you through a guided meditation. Which is very nice, of course, but there is one problem. The vast majority of people in a class like that aren't actually meditating. They're using it as an opportunity to zone out, to drift off to a galaxy far, far away, and sometimes even just have a little sleep. I've heard a few snores in classes I've been in the past. They're using it to disconnect. And while this at times can be useful, we all need to disconnect, that's not what meditation is really about. Meditation is actually about doing the opposite. It's about connecting more with your experience. And when you make this shift, that's when you start to get the full benefits that meditation has to offer. So in this episode of the podcast, we're going to dive into this and take a look at 3 steps you can use that will allow you to meditate powerfully every single time. Hey there and welcome to the Stress Less Living podcast. My name is Stephen Burns and I've been a practicing coach, trainer and hypnotherapist for 25 years. Each week I'll share easily digestible bite-sized ideas that you can immediately put into practice so that you can live a more harmonious and balanced life. Because life is challenging, but whatever we encounter, we always have a choice. We can take the easy route or the hard route, the low stress way or the high stress way. Well, the Stress Less Living podcast is about always looking for the easy routes in life, the low stress ways to accomplish your goals, get more of what you want, and ultimately live a happy and more effortless life. So if you're looking for the perfect antidote for the chaos of modern life, my friends, you are absolutely in the right place. So meditation is something that I've been doing now for close to 20 years, but I got into it big time around about 6 or 7 years ago. So at the time, I was working in the oil and gas industry, and I was also running a business that was beginning to take off. In fact, I was actually involved in 2 businesses just to add to the chaos. And quite frankly, I was all over the place. My stress levels were high. I was struggling to concentrate on the projects that I was working on. And I just wasn't really that happy. I was constantly running. And like I said, I had dabbled in meditation previously, but I decided to get into it in a much bigger way. So I signed up for a 10-day meditation program. It was an online course, and you did it in the comfort of your own home. And about halfway through the program, so I'd been meditating for 5 days, I had what I can only describe as a moment. So it was a Sunday, and I remember it quite clearly because it was my birthday and I was round at my parents' house. And all of a sudden, I started to feel what I like to describe as a sense of creeping bliss. It was this amazing feeling of natural euphoria. It was incredible. And the thing is, I wasn't really doing anything to create it in the moment. It was just kind of there. Now, I've since discovered that meditators like to refer to this as a moment of enlightenment, where you come home to yourself, where you catch a glimpse of what it's like when you're fully connected with your experience. If we want to go a bit more esoteric, where you connect with life and the universe as a whole. But to me, at the time, it just felt damn good. And it was such a smooth and natural thing. It had a really nice, subtle quality to it. It was just amazing. And then the next day, when I went back to work, quite a few things happened that would have normally knocked me off balance. But I felt so strong and impenetrable. It was like the setbacks were just bouncing off me, like I had a shield of calm that was surrounding me. It really was quite something. And for me, these were both massive convincers of the power of meditation. And since then, it's become a regular feature of my life. Now, full disclosure, I don't meditate every day. I'm not one of those people. And I don't think you actually need to. But I do meditate several times a week, and that's enough if you do it powerfully each time and don't just use it to disconnect and drift off to a galaxy far, far away, as I mentioned earlier on. So let's dig into how to actually do this, shall we? What are these 3 steps that I mentioned at the very start of this episode? Well, step number 1 is something that so many people forget to do, And not doing this can significantly hinder your ability to meditate in a powerful way. So what is step one? Well, step one is where you prepare to meditate. So one of the big mistakes that people can make when they attempt to meditate, especially in the beginning, is they try to go straight from their busy working day right into the meditation. There's no bridge, there's no transition in between. So they get home, they're super busy, they're a little bit stressed, they've got 1,000,001 thoughts going through their mind, and they go, I've got to meditate, I've got to relax, I'm so stressed. And they grab their phone, they load up their favourite meditation app, they stick their headphones on and they hit play, and they just get frustrated. They can't focus, they can't concentrate, and there's so many thoughts just swimming around inside their minds. And the reason why, if that resonates with you in any way, the reason why it's difficult to meditate, or you're finding it difficult, is because you're still in your day. You're still thinking about all of the myriad of thoughts, the tasks, the experiences you've had throughout your working day, or something else that you've been doing. So to solve this, you need a bridge to smoothly take you from your hectic, busy life into the meditation itself. You need an intermediate step, and that intermediate step is where you prepare to meditate. So how do you do that? Well, there are lots of ways, or there's lots of things you want to keep in mind, but the first thing I want to recommend is you want to change your environment. So you want to create a space that is away from your workspace that can be dedicated to meditating. Maybe it's a special room in your house, or perhaps even a place that you go to. If you're meditating at work, so maybe you work from home, then you want to make sure you do it somewhere away from your desk. You know, some workplaces, thankfully, are forward-thinking enough to have meditation rooms or meditation chambers. But if not, then you want to find someplace different. Hey, maybe it's even a toilet cubicle. I have meditated in a toilet several times. Trust me, it does work. But you just don't want to be doing it in your immediate working environment, because there will be too many distractions. There'll be too many triggers that will pull your attention away from the meditation itself. Personally, I even like to have a dedicated meditation chair, and a lot of my students like to do this as well. And when you have a specific environment like this, it helps you disconnect from your day, but it also becomes a trigger for the meditation. Over time, it becomes associated with that state of mind. So eventually, you just sit in the chair and you slip easily and smoothly into the meditation, because you've taught your brain that this is the time for you to go into that place. So another thing that you can do to help you disconnect and to prepare properly for meditation is you can do a brain dump. So this is where you take a piece of paper or a journal or a Word document and you externalise all of the thoughts of the day that are swimming about inside your head. Whatever they are, just get them out, get them on paper or get them in a Word document. And this process of externalising can be such a cathartic experience. It's one of the reasons why journaling can be so popular these days. It helps free up your mind and it creates mental clarity. So I actually talked about brain dumping in a bit more depth in a previous podcast. It was in relation to reducing overwhelm. If you want to check that out, it's episode number 8. But for the purposes of meditation, doing a brain dump helps you disconnect from your day so that you can go into the meditation with a greater sense of clarity and focus. And another thing that you can do to prepare is to do some breath work. So breath work is fantastic for calming down the nervous system and just bringing you more into the present moment. And one classic but simple method you can use is where you breathe in for a count of 4 and then out for a count of 8. And then you repeat that for about 5 minutes. And like I said, this will calm the nervous system. It will help you get out of your own head, more into your body, and more into the present moment. And this is a great place to be when you start your meditation. Hey there, if you are enjoying this episode and you'd like to learn more about the fundamentals of meditation, then I have a video course that you can enrol on for free as a podcast listener. So this is normally a paid course, but as someone who listens to the podcast, you can enrol for free using the discount code in the show notes. So if you want to check out that, like I said, I'll include a link to that free meditation course in the show notes and all the information that you need. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is where you actually do the meditation. So you're properly prepared, you've created that bridge, you've disconnected from the day, If you now meditate from this place, then you'll do so with a greater sense of mental clarity and focus. It's going to be so much easier to get into. You are good to go. Now, I'm not going to be going into the ins and outs of precisely how to meditate in this episode. I do have a program for that if you want to add your name to the waiting list. I've included a link to it in the show notes. But I do want to talk about what you're looking to accomplish when you meditate, what your main goal is, especially in the beginning. So I think one of the biggest myths of meditation is that the goal is to stop all your thoughts and completely switch your brain off. So this is not what meditation is all about. This is a complete misconception, a complete myth. To switch your brain off completely is something totally different. That's called death. That's not the goal here. In fact, research has shown that when you meditate, there is more activity going on inside the brain. It's just a different type of activity. So the goal is never to stop all thoughts. That's impossible. But rather, the goal is to create a sense of stillness. Or, what's more accurate, to allow yourself to slip into a natural place of stillness. And this is the foundation of powerful meditations. When you create stillness, that's when your body and mind gets the deep rest that it needs. And you open yourself up to experiencing a wonderful sense of serenity, tranquility, and sometimes even a feeling of bliss. So to give you a picture of this, the analogy I like to use is that it's a bit like if you were standing watching a lake on a completely still day. There's not a breath of wind and everything is just completely still. If you were to spend some time just watching that scene, you would start to get a sense of stillness, wouldn't you? What that feels like. A visceral sense inside your body and your mind. That's what you're looking to create, or that's what you're looking to slip into. You're not doing a PhD academic study on what stillness should or should not be. You want to get a visceral sense of it inside your neurology. So please don't buy into this myth that meditation is all about stopping every thought that's going on inside your mind. That's not, as I said, that's called death. It's more about creating stillness, or certainly that's the foundation. Now, as an aside, when you do create stillness, as a result, you often experience pockets of silence, and these pockets can get larger the more that you practice. But you want to think about these pockets of silence as welcome byproducts of stillness, instead of it being the main thing you're looking to create. Hopefully that makes sense, because usually when people try to create this silence inside their mind, it just doesn't work. They end up arguing with themselves, and really that's not your main focus. Your focus is on creating stillness, and you might find that you'll create larger and larger pockets of silence as a byproduct of that state. So that is step number 2 when you actually do the meditation. Like I said, if you want to know a bit more about that, then you can check out the program I have. Like I said, I've included a link in the show notes. So step number 3 is another one that many people miss out on, and it includes a lot of seasoned meditators as well, people who have been doing it for a long time. So step number 3 is where you meditate with a purpose. And I think this is what makes this method that we've been going through, so I call it the peaceful practice method, just a little bit different from other meditation practices. With a lot of traditional meditation practices, it's all about creating that sense of stillness, that sense of peace and calm. And that is great. That is super cool. Stillness is crucial when it comes to creating a strong psychological foundation. But with the method that I use, that we've been going through, stillness is not the end point. It's not everything that you can do with meditation. What I like to teach people is to use stillness as a bridge into other flavors of meditation. And for me, this really is the way to harness the full power of meditation. I find sometimes when I meet people who have been meditating for 20 years, they kind of look a little bit like zombies. They've overdosed on calm. They usually talk very slowly. Maybe they've gone full Buddha and shaved their head and bought some robes. And hey, if that's you, then go for it. You do you. But I would like to get across that when you're in a state of meditation, it's a wonderful opportunity to create some powerful positive changes in your life that go way beyond feelings of calm. As I said earlier, there's a lot of research into to what happens inside the brain when we meditate. And one of the coolest findings is that when we meditate, the brain becomes more plastic. It becomes malleable. A lot of people think that the brain is 100% fixed and rigid, but it's not. The study of neuroplasticity has shown us that the brain changes shape over time depending on what we expose it to and what we choose to focus on. And this accelerates rapidly, I'm sure you've guessed it, when we meditate. When we meditate, the brain becomes so much more plastic and it becomes easier to make new connections and new learnings. So from my perspective, my thinking is, why aren't we making more use of this state? And that's what step 3 is all about. It's where you set an intention and you meditate with a specific purpose in mind. So you're maybe asking, what are some examples of these specific purposes? Well, you can do it for lots of different things, but just to give you a quick list, I'll give you 4 things just to start you off. So number 1, you can use it to practice gratitude. So this is where you give yourself full credit for everything that is great about you and your life. Gratitude has become one of these rather cheesy things recently that apparently only new agey type of people do, but everyone will benefit from practicing gratitude. Practicing gratitude releases dopamine, so we feel happier. It also releases serotonin, which is the chemical that is the natural antidote for stress and anxiety. And in general, it just leads to a greater sense of happiness and joy. I mean, if you can't enjoy the good things in your life right now, how do you expect to enjoy the things in the future that you're looking to achieve? And for me, practicing gratitude, especially through meditation, gives you that gift. It allows you to enjoy everything that you experience right now and, of course, the things that you're looking to accomplish in the future. So that's the first thing. The second thing that you can use meditation for is to increase positive motivation. So a lot of people use fear and adrenaline to motivate themselves, and this can certainly work. Fear, adrenaline, they are both very good motivators, but it is quite dangerous in the long term, and you significantly increase your chances of burnout as well. In fact, a lot of burnout happens when we do, of course, overwork, but we overwork for the wrong reasons. We're doing it just to make sure that we don't feel afraid, or to make sure that we're not found out for the frauds that we think we are. We use a lot of fear, a lot of negativity, a lot of adrenaline to push us to taking action. And like I said, this is okay for the short term, but if you're using this as your basis for your motivation, then that is going to be potentially damaging over time. And if you really push yourself, you most likely are heading towards burnout. So when you use meditation for a more positive way to motivate yourself, what you can do is you can switch over to a much cleaner form of motivation. This is where we use things like inspiration. We use positive feelings of, pleasure and anticipation to fuel our future actions. And it just makes life so much more effortless. This podcast is all about making life effortless. So if you can use more positive means to motivate yourself, then your life will be easier by default. So it's another great method or another great use of meditation. And number 3 is you can use meditation for performance. So every now and again, we all have to step up, right? We have to bring more to the table. Maybe it's a presentation, a meeting, or maybe you're working with an important client, or hey, maybe it's even just a first date. In those instances, we need to put our best foot forward. We need to access the best version of us. You don't always have to be the best version of you. When you're lying on your couch in your sweatpants, I've gone all American for a second there, your jammies, your pajamas, you don't have to be your best self. You can lie about and lounge and just do your thing. But sometimes we do have to perform. We have to step up and deliver a higher quality of results. We have to bring more to the table. And that's when we have to elevate our performances. And meditation is a wonderful way to do it. So that's number 3. And the 4th one in this list is connection. In a post-COVID world where many people are now working from home, it's easy to become isolated, isn't it? Things like loneliness and social anxiety are most definitely on the rise. So you can use meditation to help you connect with people on a deeper level. And also, and I think this is really important, just to feel a sense of connection in general, just to know that you're not alone in this world. I know as a business owner, it can sometimes be a bit of a lonely journey. I do work with people now and again, of course, but a lot of the work you do is on your own. So I think it's important every now and again just to affirm that you are not alone in this world. So you can use meditation. This can help you connect with other people a lot more. Or if we want to go a little bit esoteric again, it can help you just connect with the universe. And I know that sounds sounds a little bit out there, but it is absolutely true. If I go back to the moment that I had the feeling of creeping bliss, that was exactly the kind of feeling I was experiencing. It was like I was so in the moment, I was so connected with my experience that I felt just so connected with, the universe at large. And I know that sounds a very weird thing, saying it out loud even sounds a little bit weird, but I think that's the best way I can describe it. It just felt like I was so connected with everything. So that's just 4 ways, but there are many other ways to meditate. But I think the key thing is you're looking to meditate for a purpose. When your brain is in that plastic state, you may as well make use of it so you can use that to create positive changes in your life. So there you have it, 3 steps for meditating powerfully every single time. Like I said, I've not really gone into the details of this, but I do have a program called The Peaceful Professional. If you want to be added to the waiting list, it's not currently open for enrolments, but if you want to check out the link in the show notes, you can click that link, pop your name in the waiting list, and I'll be in touch with some details in due course. So let's just quickly recap before we bring this episode to a close. So step number 1, you want to prepare. Don't just dive into it. You want to have that bridge, you want to have that intermediate step so you can go smoothly from your busy working life into the meditation. Step number 2, you want to actually meditate. And if you remember, the main goal of meditation is not to stop all of your thoughts, it's to create a sense of stillness, certainly in the beginning, and you want to use that as your foundation. And then step number 3, you want to meditate with a purpose in mind. And this is what really elevates your practice and allows you to utilize so much of the power that meditation has to offer. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. If you have any questions or you want to drop me a comment, then feel free to email me. You'll find me at info@mindschool.net. So once again, thank you so much for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.